I came to know Dickie Harrison when a tragedy hit our church, which was a F4 tornado that had came through, and we were trying to figure out, of course, what to do next. And at that time, it took most of the building, but not all of it, and so the building had to be finished, torn down, the land cleaned off. So we started trying to figure out who to call to come in and give an appraisal of what it would take to rebuild that building. And not only that, but tear that building down. And so there were a couple of contractors that the men in our church recommended, and Rhino was one of them. And so I remember the first day that Dickie came out to look at the property and do a walkthrough with myself and a couple of men in the church. And I remember when the other contractors came out, but especially when Rhino came out, and I remember walking through the building with them, and when they left, I told one of the men that was in our church walking with us how much I liked him and how much I felt good about his attitude, spirit, etc. And they gave us the appraisal, and then we needed someone to tear the building down. And Rhino called back, and from what I remember on the estimate, they did it somewhere around $65,000 cheaper to just clean that building up than anybody else could do it. And that meant a lot to us because we were in a bad situation, didn't know what we was going to do. As the weeks went on, we decided to buy more property, sell that property, and try to build a brand new building. And so we, of course, interviewed Rhino and sat with them, talked with them, and through much prayer and much discussion, we decided this is what we needed to do. We didn't have much time. We had to recover from a tornado because our church did not have a building. So we had to do something really, really quick because we had nowhere to gather, nowhere to have church except the building we was renting. And so our situation was something that needed a lot of attention. And we needed somebody because our church was scared at the time. The economy, it was in 08, so the economy was crashing. That's when one of the biggest banks went under. And of course, what insurance money we got, you know, church was afraid we was going to lose it. We had to put it in different banks. So the church was very scared. They had lost everything. And moving to a new place scared them. Are we going to be able to do it? And so our church was under a lot of pressure. And what we needed was someone that would be a refuge for us. We needed a safety net, someone we could trust, someone that would handle the money right, someone that could get us in that building quick but yet do it right. And Rhino was a godsend for us because they did all of that and more. You know, in some companies, of course, I had never built a church. I'd only been pastoring 2 years at the time. And so it was all new to me, which Dickie Harrison became someone that was there for me and there for our building committee that walked us through some very difficult times in our church, that when we seemed like we was up against a wall, he always had the right words to calm us and to let us know, hey, you know, we've been through this before, we can work around this, we can do what needs to be done. And every time they led us through the process, and that meant a whole lot, especially with it being my first building to build. And when it came to the money, they made sure that they handled it right. And I've heard of so many situations where, you know, contractors run off with money, subcontractors, you know, didn't finish the job, took the money, and we have not lost one red cent to any subcontractor. And some companies, maybe the downflow, the men working under the foreman or the president of the company, the vice president, you can get in touch with them, but you can't get in touch with the vice president, the president, if something is big. Rhino's not that way. And anytime you need any of them, they're there. And that's what really impressed us. There was one situation, because I think everything rises and falls in leadership. And so when the leadership at the top is right, the downflow is going to be right. And that's my experience with Rhino. Who they hire, they train and invest in them. So therefore, they take on the same traits and the same principles as their leaders. And that has impressed me about this company. And I remember one night, for example, I came in, and it was towards the end of the building program when you're tired and a little frustrated because you just want to be in your building. And I came in after dark and was going through a part of the church and found out some things some contractors had done that day, a problem of which we had asked them to fix several times. And that day, it kind of went sour again. And the more I looked and the more I heard from the people working there that night, the more angry I got. But the Bible says be angry and sin not. So I didn't sin, but I was angry. And I picked up the phone. It was late, rather late, and I think for the first time called Dickie Harrison outside of office hours. And he picked up the phone, which shocked me. I was just going to leave him a message. And he picked up the phone and he said, "What's the matter?" And I told him, and I said, "I would rather for these men not to show up to our building again until this problem is solved. I don't want them back in the morning." And he said, "No problem. I will take care of it. It's done." And he did. He took care of the problem. They fixed it. The next morning he was on it. They had a meeting. And it's those things like that that I didn't have to fight, that they fought for us. And those things mean a lot, because going into any type of building program, there's a lot of stress, a lot of weight on a church. And the least frustration you can have with a building company, the better it makes it for the church. And that has been our experience with Rhino Construction. I do think that some men do it and for the career, for the job. But I also think that some men do it because they have a heart for it. And that's what I found out about this company. They have a heart for it. And Dickie Harrison has not only a heart, I think a burden to help churches. And I have found it's difficult to work with people who, when you need them, you feel like you're frustrating them or they don't have time for you. And that has not been my experience here. They love what they do. So anytime you call with a problem, they make it an effort to help you and to solve the problem. Marty, the same way. Anytime I contacted him, he would always say, anytime I said, "Look, I don't want to bug you. Hey, that's what I'm here for. Call me anytime. I don't care if it's night. Call me on my cell phone." Those things meant a lot. Even Troy working here, anything we needed done. If it was something that was not even their job, we needed help unloading something, they would call their boys. They'd be out to the truck. It was very personal, and not only did we build a church building, but we built friendships. And these are the kind of men that you can build friendships with. And to me, that is everything. And so our experience with Rhino has been nothing but good. I don't know or have any reason that when we start our next phase is that we would look for any other construction company, because they were there for us in the worst time of this church's history and helped bring us through the worst storm this church ever had. And for that, we are very grateful and we are very thankful. And I recommend this company to anybody and everybody because their reputation precedes them. And I don't know where you would go to find anybody that could help you as much as these men can. God bless you in your endeavor, and we wish you well.